Okay, and I've got some questions about this question. Now, this is question 15 of the chapter review in the short answer questions. And it's a little bit of a tough question if we're thinking about it, and let's read through it and try and solve it together. Billy went to the country show and spent $78 on 9 items, including rides and show bags. Okay, so he spent 9 items, $78, rides and show bags. Okay, that's fine. Show bags cost $12 and rides cost $7. How many did Billy buy? Okay. Now, this is a little bit hard because once you kind of hit here and go, okay, $12 a show bag and $7 for a ride, and he spent $78 together, what are the combinations in which he did? Okay, but you're just like, okay, well, I don't know that because that's really confusing. But let's try and think about it. What we've actually got to do is there's a lot of information here that we can get really confused, especially this part, because there are so many different ways of combining 12 and 7 to make 78. Or maybe there is, or maybe there isn't, but we don't know those combinations, and there might be a lot, or it might be a few, but we're not going to sit here and try and do trial and error all the time. We've got to try and come up with a way of making sense of all this information. So I think a good way of thinking about this, and this kind of harks back to probability a little bit in the sense of you've got to think of numbers that aren't necessarily on this page but are in your head, and you've got to put that down. Okay, so I think a very helpful way of analyzing this question is going, let's say S is the number of show bags, and R is the number of rides. Okay? So we don't know what they are, but that's a number. It's not just a letter. Remember, this is a number. And if we're thinking about that, okay, well, let's start to make sense of that. The number of rides and the number of show bags, well, we've actually given a total of how many items there are. There are 9 items altogether, 9 tickets, let's just say, or 9 things that they purchased, 9 tickets and 9 show bags altogether. So we can go, okay, well, what we can do here, the number of show bags and the number of rides adds up to 9. So what we can do is our first equation is S plus R equals 9. That's our first equation. We don't know how many, but we do know this is true. We don't know how many, if that might be 0 and that might be 9, but we do know this is true. Okay? The other thing is show bags cost $12 and rides cost $7 and adds up to $78. Okay, so the number of show bags times $12 plus the number of rides times $7 should equal 78. So I'm going to write that out a little bit slowly. The number of rides, so let's do show bags first. The number of show bags times 12, because I don't know how many that is, but we'll times it by 12. Might be 0, might be 1, might be 7, who knows. Plus the number of rides times 7 equals $78. Now we're dealing with money here. This is in terms of dealing with items. This is in terms of dealing with money. And if we put this and make it a little bit simpler, this should be 12S plus 7R equals 78. And from there we have our 2 equations. Equation 1 and equation 2. I think that is the hardest part of trying to solve these equations, and I'll solve the equations in a sec, but I think students are struggling with, and don't feel alone if you're doing it, and it's very hard, is reading this and getting, especially this, how many did Billy buy? Like how many tickets for rides and how many show bags did he buy? That's really hard. It gets really confusing, but you just got to break it down and go, okay, this question is totally solvable. They wouldn't have given it to me if I couldn't solve it. It's just a little bit harder. And I think there's 2 steps here, is that you remember S and R are the number of show bags and the number of rides. They aren't set things. Okay, so these are numbers. We just don't know what those numbers are. And then we can just put those parameters and limit them to certain truths. So for instance, we knew that the number of show bags plus the number of rides equaled 9 because there was 9 items up here. Okay, we know that to be true. We don't know what they are, but that's okay. We don't have to worry about that or try and calculate that. We can just stick it into this equation and go, okay, I know that is definitely true. Now I'm going to move on to another way. And the other way that the question phrases it, so it measures it in terms of items, and also measures it in terms of money. So if there's 78 is the number of show bags times 12 plus the number of rides times 7, and we can put that into an equation just here. Okay, I hope that helps. So from there, I will solve this equation for you. Okay, so what I would do is, I really like elimination, so I'm going to do elimination. And I am going to get rid of my S's. So I'm going to go, actually, you know what? Some of you have been struggling with elimination. I'll do substitution, because this question does lend itself to substitution. What I'll do with equation 1, I don't know if I'm saying this out correctly. So S plus R equals 9. I will minus R from both sides. So I'm left with S equals 9 minus R. And that can be my equation 3. And then I would start a new page here. I'm going to sub equation 3 into equation 2. So that means where I have an S, S, I'm going to replace it with R minus 9. 9 minus R. And that's going to go in here. So it's going to be 12 bracket 9 minus R, close bracket, plus 7R equals 78. Okay, let's pick up the pace because this is dragging a little bit. 12 times 9, let's get my calculator, 108 minus 12R plus 7R equals 78. That minus that, minus 12 plus 7 equals minus 5, minus 5R, and whilst I'm at it, I'm going to minus 108 from both sides. So 78 minus 108 gives me minus 30. Okay, if I'm going too fast, you can just pause it and check that out for yourself. And then I'm going to divide both sides by minus 5. And that'll give me R equals 6, I believe. And this is my equation 4. And then finally, I want to sub equation 4 into 3. And that is S equals 9 minus 6, so equals 3. So, therefore, Billy bought 3 show bags let's put this up just a little bit. And how many? 6 rides. I hope that helped, guys.